Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Wreaths and Things. I was kind of out and about on the internet, just kind of roaming around, seeing what's out there, seeing what's new, seeing what's hot, seeing what's happening in the wreath world and the crafting community, and I came across Carrie's Creations. I have to say, I stumbled across this short video on YouTube where she did this huge wreath bow, and I'm like, I have to do this, and I'm talking, I need to do this yesterday. This is how badly I wanted to do it. So today, I am inspired by Carrie's Creations. Thank you, Carrie. Your bow is gorgeous, by the way. Today, we are going to work on a huge wreath bow inspired by Carrie's Creations with my own little Dave's Wreaths and Things twist. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I made. I am using the small Unique in the Creek wreath board for this. I'm also using 2.5 and 1.5 inch wired ribbon. It's gold and black. This is the Kirkland ribbon from Costco. Some 6-inch gray cable ties, and of course my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. And here is the list of supplies that I'm using. To start off, we have our Unique in the Creek wreath board. You can see they have pairs of holes, and there is row 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the center row as well. I'm going to be starting off in the second row, third row, and fourth row. That's where we're going to be putting our ribbon. And again, I'm just pointing out you do have these sets there, but we're also going to be using the shared holes as well. So basically, every single hole on this board we're pretty much going to be using. You can see here I have my first attachment on there, and I put that in the first set. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the first hole and then bring it through the cable tie, bring it through the second available hole. So you can see there I'm sharing one hole, going to the next available open hole, feeding that cable tie through, and I am leaving it open. So I'm just going to let it click a couple of times. I'm not going to yank it really tight. So you can see there we have like an open loop, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. Now I'm on row number 2, which is the second row. And once that's all filled out, you can see I filled out 2, 3, and 4. You can see on the back side here, I filled out all of those paired holes along with the shared holes. And once that's all done, I'm going to start making my cuts. So I'm cutting all of my ribbon right from the get-go. I like to prepare everything right beforehand. So you can see here I'm cutting this 2.5 inch wired ribbon at 14 inches. And then I'm going to cut some of this lame ribbon. Now here is all the cuts. I know it looks like a lot. Don't get scared. We're going to take this step by step. Don't worry. But these are all the cuts that we're going to be using. And I'm going to be using about 21 yards of ribbon number 1 and 16 yards of ribbon number 2 to create this bow wreath. Now I'm going to get started on just dovetailing those smaller pieces. So these are the 7-inch pieces in the 2.5 and the 1.5 inch ribbon. So I'm just folding it in half, cutting it on an angle. That's going to create that beautiful dovetail. And I have the 7-inch ribbon on the left. I have the 14-inch ribbon right at the top right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue on that 14-inch long ribbon, fold it over, place the top parts facing out, and so it's going to create a little teardrop shape. We don't want to fold that flat. We want to keep that nice and teardrop shape. You can also use your stapler like I'm using right here, and I just continue on doing the same thing. So adding a little bit of hot glue, or if you want, fold it over and use your stapler. Once that's all done, I'm just going to put those off to the side, and we're going to work on those little 7-inch pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm having a base of the 2.5, and then I'm going to overlap that gold right on top of it. And like again, you can use your stapler or you can use your hot glue gun. I'm showing you both ways how to do it here. There's no right or wrong. It's however works for you. Now originally I had cut everything at 7 inches, and when I originally did it, I wanted it to be offset a little bit. So that's why there's a little bit right at the bottom there of that gold. So again, we're going to go back now to our Unique in the Creek wreath board, and I'm going to work on our first attachment. So I'm taking that 2.5-inch teardrop shape ribbon that we just did. I'm going to come into one of the pairs, and of course that cable tie is open. I'm just going to slide that right in there, and then I'm going to pull it nice and tight, take my cutting utensils and cut the excess off, and we've got our first little loop attached. Now my pattern is going to be one loop with two of the dovetail bundles that we created. So that's the gold and the plaid. That's the 7-inch ones. So I'm just going to pinch the bottom of that one and then move to the next available open cable tie. I'm going to pull it tight, and then I'm just going to take my cutting utensil and I'm just going to cut that off, and I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. So just gathering it a little bit right at the end, putting it through that open cable tie. I'm just going to play around with placement a little bit. Once I'm happy, pull it tight, cut that excess off, and we have our first little pattern going here. Now with this, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add some hot glue right onto that wreath board, making sure both ribbons are on that hot glue so it's nice and secure and that those ribbons don't fall out. If you want, you can put a cable tie in the end. I just decided to hot glue like Carrie did, and it works perfectly. So our pattern is one loop, two tails, one loop, two tails, and then I just keep using that pattern. So I grab my loop, feed it through my next available cable tie, pull it tight, and then I'm going to do two of our tails. And this is, again, the second row. We're using those loops, which are the 14-inch ribbon, and we're also using those tails, which are the 7-inch pieces of ribbon. And not to forget, adding that hot glue on there so it doesn't fall off and that ribbon doesn't come loose. We don't want to put all this effort into this wreath and then have it come out. So you just see me, I did my pattern all the way around in row number 2, and now we're going to go into row number 3, which is that next available row. So I'm just pointing out we just did row 2, and now we're going to do row 3, and eventually we'll get to row 4 as well. For row number 3, we're going to follow the exact same pattern. So we're going to do one loop with the two of the tails, one loop, two tails, one loop, two tails, all the way around, following the exact same method of procedure, feeding it in there, adding that hot glue down, which is nice and important because we don't want that ribbon to go anywhere. And then we just move on to the next loop, the next tail, and keep going. And then of course now we're going to do our final row, and for this one I'm going to do one loop, which is that 14-inch piece, one tail, which is the 7-inch piece, one loop, one tail. So it's a little bit different than our other two rows. So here is a list of everything that we're doing with how many ribbon cuts you need for each row. You can see row 2, ribbon 1, row 2, ribbon 2, row 3, ribbon 1, row 3, ribbon 2, etc., etc. I'm not going to go through every single row for you, but you have the idea here. You could take a screenshot and you can follow along as well. And we are back. Now it's time to create the center. So what I have here is I have a 4-inch piece, which is gold and the plaid, and I also have two 16-inch pieces of the plaid and two 16-inch pieces of the gold. I'm going to create my own little ribbon where I am overlapping the gold to the plaid. I'm just adding a little line of hot glue right down the center like you're seeing here and applying that gold ribbon right on top. Once that's all done, I'm just going to have 4 more pieces of ribbon. Now this is the ribbon we cut previously with the dovetail on both ends, and that's going to go right in the center. So again, those are the 16-inch pieces that go right in the center. I'm going to add a cable tie, and I'm not going to close it off. I'm going to keep it open right at that center. Then I'm just going to find the center line or the midpoint of my ribbon, squish it together, and just lay it right down in the center so I can find the center of my ribbon. And I'm doing a crisscross pattern, and this is that 1.5 gold ribbon that I'm using for this center piece. Once that's all laid out, I'm going to close off my cable tie that we inserted previously. I'm going to pull it nice and tight, make sure everything's the way I want it, pull it even tighter, and then chop off the excess. Now we're going to take those ribbon pieces that we created a little bit earlier on. I'm going to add hot glue on the end, roll it over to itself to create a little disc shape or a little tube shape, if you will. And I'm going to add another cable tie right in the center because we're going to create that beautiful bow centerpiece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our first little bundle there, wrap that cable tie right around the center. We're going to create our first little bow. I fold it in half just to make sure I got it centered. Sometimes it happens where my bows are not centered. And I'm going to do the same thing for the second one here, adding that cable tie right in the center and cutting off that excess. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross the bows, and you can see that little tube that we've created. I'm going to feed a cable tie through there, add that right in the center. It's going to be on a crisscross angle because we do want that cross, and then we're going to pull that tight once I have everything laid out in place. And of course we have one in here already. That's going to create a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to do another cable tie going the opposite way to kind of straighten everything out so it doesn't look crooked. Now with the cable tie right in the center, we are going to add our bow, and we're going to place the cable tie in between that little bow that we created right in the middle. You can see I'm pulling my fingers through that little bow. That's where we're going to hide the cable tie, is with that bow right in the center. I'm going to pull it tight with my pliers, making sure it's nice and secure, cut off that excess, and we have our little wreath bow. Actually, it's a big wreath bow. Almost already. Now these are our tails, and they are long. I love it. I'm just overlapping the two different ribbons. I'm going to find my center just by folding it over, gather it together, and then I'm going to grab a cable tie and just wrap that right around the center, pulling it really tight, making sure it's secure, cutting the excess off, and then I'm going to fold that tail again. So right at the middle where we just placed the cable tie, we're going to fold it down, have everything overlap, and then I'm going to add another cable tie right at the very end. And I'm going to do this for all three of our tails. Now what I've done is just right on the outside, I've added 3 cable ties like we've done previously, all in a row using shared holes, and then I'm going to add in those tails, and they're going to go right in there. And with that cable tie at the end of the ribbon or at the middle of the ribbon, those ribbons aren't going to come out at all. So we add those on there, and then of course, what does that mean? It is fluffing time. And of course, you know me, I love fluffing bows, and this is one big bow that needed to be fluffed. So I was in pure bow fluffing OCD heaven with this. I had a great time fluffing it, and our final result, look at this. I love black and gold for New Year's, and I think this is going to be absolutely spectacular on my front door, all ready to celebrate 2025 ending and the start of a prosperous 2026 year. Loving this bow. Carrie from Carrie's Creations, thank you so much for the inspiration. I just love it. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate you joining me while I made this New Year's Eve big wreath bow. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you could be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye for now.